So many people I know, and I'm sure many of you here, whenever you get into a new endeavor, you want to make an impact that matters. An impact that matters. However, how can you do that if you can't sell it? And I don't necessarily mean for money. How can you do that if you're not persuading, if you're not able to influence people? So often people are in a meeting and they have the great idea, so they're discussing the problem and the situation, and they say it, and it's not accepted. It's dismissed, or it's not taken seriously, and 2 weeks later, 2 months later, they're saying, I know that my idea is better than what we're doing, but I wasn't able to persuade. So if we want to make an impact that matters, let's try to get past that frustration of not being able to persuade. Because very often, your value is dependent on how influential you are. So your brains and your solutions and your wit, if you can't sell it, you're not going to be as influential as a blogger, as online, as a marketing manager, as a leader, as an influencer. We have to sell what we create here. We have to persuade. We have to influence. So, the persuasion paradox. The word paradox is a statement that seems contradictory, very often absurd, but it's the truth. I love paradox. I love paradox. Embracing paradox allows us to be more open, I believe, because it's not black or white. It's black and white. It's 50 Shades of Gray. It's an infinite amount of gray. And for that, I believe that when you embrace paradox, it allows you to be more curious, and curiosity is influential. You think curiosity is just about understanding and figuring out things, it's really attractive. And that is very, very influential. And it's very, very persuasive. So, the yin-yang. Paradox and the yin-yang are very, very related to each other. I'm a bit of a Taoist. I don't know how many of you know that. It's kind of an Eastern philosophy. And the yin-yang is at the center of it. And the yin-yang, there's light and dark. There's active and passive. There's planting and nurturing. And, the beauty of it is that there's always a little bit of one in the other. So you see the little black dot in the white area and the little lighter white dot in the dark area. That's because the yin-yang knows it's not perfect, and it knows that it's fluid. And so yin-yang can be yang-yin, etc., etc. Now, I think I've always been a Taoist, and I think I've always been into paradox, and I don't think I know I didn't always know it. The paradox thing got into my head about 10 years ago. But when I was in high school, ready to go to college, so I was like a pretty bad student, kind of, mid-70s. I got into a lot of things, and showing up on time for class and making my teachers happy wasn't something that I was into. But then we took the SAT, the Scholastic Aptitude Test, to see so that universities could say, well, maybe he wasn't a good student, but he's bright or not or otherwise. And the Scholastic Aptitude Test is reading and those kind of intuitive things and letters, and then there is the logical, rational mathematics and science and problem solving and all that. And my test grades came back, and they were exactly equal. Okay, they were exactly equal. Okay, or maybe, yeah, they were somewhere in there. The high school was like, this is impossible. They were exactly equal. Somewhere. They were exactly equal. So they made me take the test again. With no notice, I showed up at school, and it was an all-day test. So you kind of did it on Saturday. So I showed up at school like a week later on Monday, and it was like, whoosh, you're doing the test again. I'm like, what? You're doing the test again. And they gave me the previous year's test that I wasn't, it wasn't like I went and researched it online. This is 1975, and I didn't even know it was going to happen. Monday morning, I went into the test, and I got the same exact result. The same exact result. So I'm equal in, whether it's up here or down here, doesn't matter. I kind of live this yin-yang world. I call on Instagram, I'm strategic poet. And I do write poetry, and I also write strategy. It's kind of weird, okay? And I like it. I'm actually strong with my right arm and tender with my left arm. I write with my left hand. I do a lot of these kind of things with my left hand. But if I have to throw a baseball or something, my left shoulder I broke, by the way, a year and a half ago. But generally, I'm yin-yang. I really believe that's who I am. So enough of that. Yin-yang allows you, yin-yang is all about the cosmic universe, and the cosmic includes Earth, and Earth includes human. For me, it's human behavior. The assertive and the passive, for example. The initiator and the facilitator. That's what I love about it. So now let's define persuasion. And persuasion is the act of persuading or seeking to persuade. Okay. As an editor, doesn't work. You cannot use the base word, but yet dictionary.com, thank you very much, persuasion, the act of persuading. Well, that helps, doesn't it? I mean, if you don't know the base, then why use the base kind of thing? So, to prevail upon, so then I looked up persuade. To prevail upon a person to do or believe something by appealing to reason and logic. Houston, we got a problem, okay? I have a problem with that. I have a problem with that because I believe that the most persuasive person in the room is not going to get the job done just with rational and logic. I see fights on Facebook with my hometown friends who we got, right and left and Republican and Democrat. And, it's kind of like, don't you see the logic here? No. And I'm not going to, either way, they don't see the logic. They don't see the logic. So nobody's buying it if all you use is logic. Now, that doesn't mean I want you to get touchy and feeling, but this guy is brilliant, but he's not the most persuasive person in the room. Let's not discard the logical. When you want to persuade, you can't go about it in a stupid way. Okay? You can't go about it without reason and logic, but you have to use emotions and feelings as well. So thank you, Toastmasters. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Nadia, thank you so much for inviting me. I also bring greetings from Switzerland, from Cameron Durakishan. I don't know how many in the room know him. I was chatting with him on Facebook today. Cameron and I are co-sponsors of the club when it was founded. And so Cameron says, hello, he saw me here and he was like, dude, you're in Kishinev. He's married a Moldovan woman and they live in Switzerland. He sends his greetings. And So, when it comes to persuasion, why do some people have that magic? Why? For me, it's the timeless question, okay? And others don't. Why? Really, why? Why some brilliant people aren't able to sell their ideas? Why some people are not able to persuade so effectively? And for me, it's when you're using your rationale and you're pushing, that's the problem. That's the problem. You need to use the rationale. If you propose the idea, you need to push it. You need to disrupt. You need to catch my attention, anybody's attention. You need to do that, but you need to pull as well. So, when we're in a discussion, and I want to persuade you of something, or you want to persuade me of something, is your idea brilliant to the person you're trying to persuade? Or is our solution ideal? That's the heart of the matter here. Is your idea brilliant, or is our solution ideal? So how do you move from there? How do you move from your brilliant idea to making it our solution? Push and pull. Okay. So how will you make me feel if you want to persuade me? that this is something I even need to pay attention to. So like in the online world, we want to capture attention. If you don't do it, you're not going to have an online conversation. If you're a blogger, for example, and you're trying to draw people into your funnel, whether it's to click a few times and buy something, or to bring them in and they start following you and you sell them, or they say, hey, we want to hire you for something. How do you do that? You need to disrupt and then pull. How will you make me feel it's important to me? So if you're disrupting but it's irrelevant, or you're trying to disrupt and it's just noise, or do I feel that it's important enough, valuable enough to go, click, or let's talk about that. I got a question, now that you mentioned it. So this mostly relates to dialogue, but it's every level of communications, leadership as well. Okay, boss, you want me to do it. Okay, and they do it, but they're not doing it with their heart. Or, yeah, boss, you want my opinion? Big difference, big difference. How do you make the other person feel that it's valuable? Now, if it's their initiation of the conversation and you jump in and you want to persuade them differently, that's already started. But if it's your conversation that you want to provoke, you have to disrupt. Disruption. And people say, oh, disruption is bad. If you don't have my attention, you need to disrupt it. You need to disrupt it. Otherwise, I'll just be going, huh? In whatever I'm doing. Or I might be going, or I might be walking down, yeah, okay. But if you disrupt it successfully, you got me. You got me. I have you. So how are you going to make that feel? Now, I have to dispel a myth. Now, some people, this won't be a myth. But emotions and feelings are not the same thing. If they were the same thing, they'd be the same word. Right? I mean, okay. No, they're not. They're not even synonyms. The emotions and feelings are two different things. They're related, but they're not the same. Feelings happen after an emotional event. An event being a moment. We ponder on them, we reflect on them, positively or negatively, but an event that captures our attention, that's an emotion. Something that we think about and feel is a feeling. So emotions and feelings are not the same thing. They are absolutely related, but an emotion is surprise. That's an emotion. Anger. Attraction. Curiosity. These are things that we don't realize that our mouth is hanging open as we're going through it. And then we go, oh, my mouth is hanging open. I look pretty stupid. Okay. But that click moment, you don't know that your body language, you don't know that your pupils may have tightened, that your breathing may be picking up. Somebody walks into your office and said, this work is terrible. You're going to have an emotional event. And your physical behavior will change because emotions are very, very related to the physical body. Our emotions can make our heart beat faster. Feelings, not so much. You could be having your feelings, thinking about things, and it won't be as impactful on the physical body as your emotions will be. Your emotions can make you get angry. And again, it's not you don't make me angry. You might bring me to a place that I allow myself to get angry, and that's my emotions, because these emotions, okay, I don't control them. You can work on them with time. This is not a self-help workshop here about how you can get in touch with your feelings and be a better... No, this is about being persuasive. This is about being persuasive. We have emotional events. Now, emotions come from the base of the human brain. The little brain is about this big. It's called the amygdala. The amygdala is the reptilian brain. Fight, get angry, defend. Okay? That is our reptile. That is our reptilian brain. And those are triggered. It's, invade my space. Looked at me funny. And then the next level of brain around that is the limbic system. And that is one level more developed. That's motivation. So it's emotions and motivations and desires and goals and things like that. And then as you get out and you get the prefrontal and all, that's where you start doing your mathematics and you try to be persuasive with logic and all of that. That's your more logical developed brain. But between the amygdala and the limbic systems, this is emotions, motivations, and behavior, directly tied to that. They're spontaneous. Emotions are spontaneous. The limbic system gets a little bit more developed. Emotions protect us from danger. Emotions drive us toward opportunity. And they can be triggered. Emotions can be triggered. The word in English trigger is click, click. In Spanish, it's desencadenado. It's bang. You can trigger somebody's emotions. Now, I don't, this is true, okay? I'm not saying use it to be a manipulative person, but if you're trying to persuade, if you're trying to pitch an idea, advertisers do it all the time. The spot comes on, and if they don't get you in the first 2 seconds of that spot, you're looking at something else. You might go to the kitchen. Online advertising, bang, they got you, or they don't. And they could do something triggering, but it's not for you. I don't need a woman's blouse today, thank you. It's like, yeah, thanks, cool. I'm sure somebody will look at it, but not me. So, depending on who your target is, but our emotions can be triggered. This is very, very, very important in persuasion. The two biggest drivers of human behavior are fear and hope. Love and hate and all, for me, those are qualities. But if you want to boil it right down, the two biggest drivers of human behavior are fear and hope. And we will always address fear before we address hope. We will always address fear before we address hope. Now, if you ever write a book, a nonfiction, the best thing to do is to give presentations on it, because last night and this morning I was kind of like, one more thing to put in there, and another chapter in the book, kind of thing. So I was in October. I was in Athens, giving this talk. It was the second or third time I gave the talk. It was on marketing and PR, and they had a consultant from Washington D.C. He was there, and he was two presenters before me. And for me, if somebody gets up there and presents something that's kind of overlaps with my material, that's beautiful. That's fine. That's not like, oh, God, he's presenting my material. So later, I got up there and said, hey, and what Thomas said. And Thomas said that Donald Trump campaigned on fear. And if you're American and you follow that, I was living in Europe, but I'm on Facebook and I get the news and things like that. Donald Trump campaigned on fear. The whole immigration thing and he campaigned on fear. And he captured a lot of hearts with that. Hillary Clinton had the path of hope. She had the avenue of hope wide open. And she didn't take it. She was too, and you know what, Hillary, I lean to that side, if I may, just so you know. But I voted for Hillary because I was anti-Trump. That's why I voted for her. Women, I'm sorry, but Barack and Hillary, night and day, and it's got nothing to do with gender. What did Barack Obama? Yes, we can. Hope. So while Trump triggered people, Hillary didn't bring it to that one sphere later of hope. She was too much defending herself from Donald's attacks. She was too much on, my emails and and she had hope wide open to her. So when you pitch something, when you want to create messaging, when you want to gain somebody's attention, don't appeal just to the rationale. Think about emotions, especially when you open. So the beauty of yin-yang, again, is that there's always a little of yin and yang. There's always a little hope in fear, and there's always a little fear in hope. Okay? Also, another thing is that it's so fluid that yang can be before yin. And when it comes to this, yang first. Step one in persuasion, in pitching an idea, is yang. Yang first. Okay? Grab the attention. Bang. And I'm even going to go so far as to say the masculine, the bold, the disruptive, the hunter who goes out there and says, ah, okay? Grab my attention. Keep it relevant. If you're pitching a CEO on something I do, like sales training, and they say, you got to meet with the CEO to make this happen, I'm not going to go in there and say, stay with your feelings, CEO. Yes, there it is, buy my sales training. No, but so it needs to be relevant. It needs to be in that space of his or her world. It needs to be businesslike. But I'm not just appealing to the frontal lobes. I'm going right at the heart. And actually, the heart is the inner side of the mind. Talk to any neurologist. This thing pumping, that's an organ that pumps blood. We get a warm feeling in our chest, and he got. And I love the word heart. It's a subtitle in my second book. But your heart is really just there pumping blood. We're really appealing to certain neurological areas. So if you're going to be talking to somebody in a very business environment, you got to keep the language very business-like, but you go for those triggers. So I understand that sales are down 5% over the last year and a half, and it's continuing. I worked with a company like yours, and we turned that around and actually flattened it in the next 3 months and started increasing their sales by 6% the following year. How did you do that? Got them. Okay? That message was relevant. That wasn't, let's go sit on the yoga mat. How's the flower pot today? Okay? Are you watering it? You're such a good CEO. No, that's bull. Okay? That the relevance has to be there, otherwise you get thrown out. If you talk to how you can make your yoga classes better, if you go too rational and businesslike, it's like, no, that's not me. You have to be relevant, but go after the heart too. Say something that gets somebody going, gotcha. Use the power of emotion. Don't forget. Balance them. Keep it relevant. Punch them in the chest. Nurture the developed brain. Attack the heart. Not a heart attack. The key to triggering emotions, simplicity. Complexity is the enemy of triggering emotions. That's it. Complexity doesn't do it. Whenever you make a sale at an organization, usually I relate a lot of this to sales, but think of it, even in a partnership. Honey, let's buy that house. I don't know. One person is driving the deal internally. If you're selling B2B, you show up, you leave, we'll get back to you next week. They'll get back to you with positive news. If one person is, I need this. This will make my life better and the company's life better, so let's spend the money, let's do it. You need that one person. And early in the conversation, early in the deal, simplicity. Complexity will happen later. Those things will flow. You'll get the finance director, you'll get the legal department, you'll get all that. And in things not so B2B, you'll get the finance department. How are we going to pay for it? You'll get the legal department. You will go to those more rational questions, but you need that, what they call champion. And you win champions with simplicity. Lion jumps out of the brush. You're on safari. Lion jumps out of the brush and says, lunch. And you're for lunch. Okay? You got a problem. You don't take out your mobile phone and say, wonder how sales are doing in Asia today. Honey, should we refine? You got a lion looking at you. You got a very simple problem and very compelling. This has got my attention. This is potential for a lot of pain. Okay? This is fear and pain, very, very related. You have my attention. Writers do it. It was a dark and stormy night. Harry Potter. Mr. Weasley was pulled out of his driveway, and over in the shade, there was an owl reading a road map. It wasn't until he got to the end of the street that he said, did I just see an owl reading a what? He turned around and it was gone. Bang, mothers, kids, and fathers hooked. Page 2. Okay, 1,200,000 words more to go for 7 more books, hooked on page 2. It was a dark and stormy night. That hot guy just smiled at me. Darling, we're having this conversation. You haven't looked at me since he's walked in. He's just smiled again. Okay? Boom. Spontaneous. Attraction. Curiosity. Use them. Now, the purpose of opening with your catchy material, that disruptive material, is not to say, we're good. We're really good. I'm good. My idea is best. Believe it or not. Of course, you don't want to show up and say, we're bad. We're terrible. Our solutions suck. Okay? My team's a bunch of idiots. Of course not. Of course not. But take this one to the bank. The purpose of opening is to earn the right to ask questions. Now we're going to move from the limbic system out. Okay? Now we got to move from the fear, the disruption, even some hope, but the very basic fundamental desire. And now we're going to engage. We have to engage. Because if you provoke me and then don't let me talk, I'm not going to buy. Some of you were in the workshop I gave yesterday at Development Aid. You're, as a salesperson, and again, as a persuader, as an influencer, your job is not to sell me. Your job is to bring me to a mental and emotional place where I decide to buy. Take that to the bank as well. Your job is to take somebody, is to work with their fears and hopes and to bring them to a place to decide to buy. We only buy in silence. It may be split second. You may be talking and I may be tuning out going, yeah, I do need this. But let people breathe. Let the couple turn to each other. Now they are one, so now they're having this internal thought. It's a conversation between them. Salesperson, sit back. Let them sell themselves. Your job as a salesperson is not to sell me. Your job is to chart a path with me and bring me to a place where I go, yeah, I need this, and it's worth it. And the price isn't, I don't have an objection with that. Earn the right to ask questions. Provoke the conversation, and then move the conversation from here to there. The killer app in engagement is asking great questions. You go to your doctor and he says, I want you to see the orthopedic surgeon, your knee's pretty bad, and you walk in and you go into the knee doctor and you go, doctor, hi, come on in, sit down, what's the matter? My knee hurts. Let's transplant it. And I tell you what, act now, I'll give you 2 for the price of 1. And then the salesperson benefits statement. You'll never have to worry about your knees again. For the rest of your life, you'll have 2 good knees. Huh? What do you say? Huh? What do you say? Huh? What do you say? Okay. Knee doctors don't do that. And if they did, it'd be, you would either say, get lost, and you'd run out, or you'd go, yeah, okay, Friday, right, and you'd walk out of there and you'd be running by the time you got to the street. Okay. What does a knee doctor do? What does the orthopedic surgeon do? Is it dull or acute? Does it hurt in the mornings or the evenings? Is it constant? Are you a runner? Roll up your pant leg there. Let me have a look. Oh, and you wear those shoes. Do you wear those a lot? Come in Friday for an MRI because I need to continue exploring. Now, so many salespeople, for example, so many leaders, for example, they'll say, you show up and you know what they need. Baloney. Let's say you're selling B2B and you're selling something that to solve one of their problems, do you think you're going to go on the web page of a company and say, we got a problem, it's really hurting us, and the impact of this problem is terrible. Please, can a consultant come in here and sell me something to solve our problem? Of course not. That company's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. You're not going to find out what they need by doing all this research. The best place to find out what anybody needs is to ask them. But you have to earn the right. You don't go in any conversation, you need to earn the right to ask questions. The killer app in engagement is asking questions. Plant it and nurture it. The planting is disrupting, nurturing it is fertilizer and water, etc. Plant the seed and nurture what you plant. The killer app in building trust is listening. I trust them because they just told us how good they were. Trying to sell something. Trying to sell something. We do this and we do it great. Buy now. We do this. I think it's probably in the area of what you need. But before we go there, I'd like to understand a little bit more. If you're having a problem in this area, or if you're looking to exploit that opportunity, oh, how so? The great salespeople, the great leaders, the great influencers trap you into a conversation, and I don't want to misuse that word trap. They capture you into a conversation, and then they lead you by pulling, not pushing. They engage you, and they ask questions. And the questions are really good. The knee doctor asks good questions. Even as he's looking at the MRI, he might see something else and ask you a good question. Salespeople need to do the same thing. Leaders need to do the same thing. Influencers need to do the same thing. Don't show me just how brilliant your idea is. Now we're going to go to the feminine. The masculine of pitching your idea. It's bold. We got to win. To, but how do you feel about winning? What's your definition of winning? How many women have said to their husbands or partners, just listen to me. I don't want you to give me a solution yet. Just shut up and listen. Okay? And women with each other can sit there and have a conversation, and one will listen and ask another question and ask another question. So often, unless you're a man like me and in touch with his feminine side, okay? Okay? But women can have this conversation, and the girlfriend will really listen and want to understand. And that's very persuasive. We need to do it more, guys. Generally. You guys, I got this all right. Okay? I don't want you to tell me how to do it yet. And even then. So, step 2 in persuasion is the yin. It's a bit more passive. Ask great questions. Shut up after you ask the question. Don't ask the question, and when they say a sentence, fill in the rest of the paragraph and the next 2 paragraphs and your great history of solving problems or working in this area or your great idea because we're leading a change. And shut up. Let them join the conversation with you. Okay? Don't push, pull. Push for a moment. And actually, if you want to talk about it chronologically, push for a moment, pull for a long time. Gently pull through asking questions and listening. The real key here, let them own it. Let them own it. Let them co-own it, at very least. There are so many salespeople who will tell you, you know what? That really was my idea, but they think it was theirs. And that's fine by me. Okay? They're not the political person working on the other side of the office who says, that's my idea. The salesperson is kind of like, brilliant. But they ask some questions and they led them there. And a lot of times it is their idea. Well, I know if I'm talking with a potential client and that client, and I say, here's the way I've done it in the past. And they say, it's pretty good, but it won't entirely work here. We need to do that. I don't say, yeah, I know. I didn't quite say what I want. I just go, oh yeah, your organization, I can understand that. I can see how that would even work better. So I'm not calling myself a dummy. In those situations, I'm not always successful when I sell, but in these situations, when I am, they like to have me around before I've earned the right to send an invoice. Before you get your understanding and agreement done with somebody, it's a good experience for them. They feel included. Define the desired outcome together, build the solution together, and be more persuasive. Build the commitment. Let them own it, and your influence will skyrocket. Your brilliant idea, that's pretty good, Jack. Let's think about that. Or early in that meeting, and earlier in my career, I know I had some brilliant ideas, okay, and they weren't accepted. Brilliant or not, it was too early in the human psyche, in the human heart. We gotta talk about this. We gotta go through this emotional human dance of getting deep into the problem and then going after a few solutions little by little. Don't propose your solution too early. Pull people through a conversation. Be very inclusive and actually lead them to the answers. You will be more persuasive. Even if it's the answer you already knew, it'll be a lot more persuasive than saying, really, I'm telling you, this is going to work. Because when people think of the word persuasion, they often think of that person who's so insistent and so logical and brilliant and all that, but they're not that successful. Your choice. Ownership. Co-own it. Share it. Do you want to be the genius with the brilliant solutions that don't sell, that don't get accepted? Or do you want to be the leader who's inclusive? Centuries ago, leadership was do it this way. The king's horses came into town, and they said, saddle up, go to war. You might die, but if you don't come, we're killing you. It was kind of like, die now, maybe die later. Okay, that's very persuasive. Okay. But we have options today. We have options today. You know, somebody comes into the office and says, do it this way. And you go, well, no, do it this way. You go, okay, yeah, click. Yeah, did it, done, good night. And a month later, your CV's out in the marketplace. Or you're unhappy at work. Great leadership, huh? Great leadership. Or, hey, we got a problem. This is what we need to accomplish next. Do you agree? Should we fine-tune what we want to accomplish? Am I missing something? Okay, well, let's throw some ideas around here. And maybe even if later you say, I've considered all your ideas and we're doing it this way, they will at least feel loved. They will at least feel valuable. And that's when we accept things more. Even more so when you do take part of my idea, part of their idea. But if you listen first and then come to your decision, it's more persuasive than just coming to your... Do you want to be the influencer, the leader? Do you want to be the one who persuades? Co-own it. Co-own it. Now, one more thing here. Close small, win big. This is a great sales tool. It's an absolutely fantastic sales tool. When you are at any point in a meeting and the buyer says, great, and we'll send that to you tomorrow, make a note of it and resume it at the end. If you don't get that as you're concluding the meeting, as salespeople and as influencers, as leaders, we often leave an engagement with work to do. Get them to do something too. Okay, just don't insist, but it's natural, actually. So if they say, Jack, can you summarize this and can you send it to me? Yes, I can do that. I'll send it to you on Friday. If I send it to you on Friday, can we have a conversation on Tuesday? Yeah, actually, can you come back in? I think the boss is around on Tuesday. I'd like you to meet them. Or the branding agency is going to be in on Tuesday. You should meet them. Great. They're putting resources on the next step. Okay? Get small emotional investments. There's two reasons for this. It's a tactical tool, and it's a great indicator. The deal is going well. The success of this project is going well. I've got buy-in. Because people feel important, and they're making little investments. It's hard to divorce ourselves, and I use that word very broadly. It's hard to divorce ourselves from something that we've contributed to. Your brilliant idea? Yeah, I'll let you know next week. Okay, we'll talk. Yeah, bzz. Okay, no, don't give him the call. Don't give him, dear Jack, thanks, but no thanks. Okay? Or, hey, Jack, I've been waiting for your call. I got bad news, but I'm taking your call. I want to tell you why. Well, that's valuable for the salesperson or the leader. Why didn't I succeed? Or, hey, Jack, I got great news. Boss wants to meet you. It's looking really good. Okay? Now, sales and persuasion is not a perfect game. I'm not saying you do this and the first time you do it, it doesn't work and you go, that's crap. It's not going to work every time. Humans are humans. But it will work more often. And that's where the game is. That's where the game is. Are your probabilities going up? If they are, this is a good exercise. Get little steps, emotional investments. It's hard to divorce ourselves from things that we contribute to. It's called the advance in sales, And like I said, it's a tactical tool, and it's a great metric. When they are contributing a lot, the higher the value of that is, for example, if they're going to introduce you to their agency, that's actually a resource. Why would they want to do that, okay? And whatever you're selling or whatever you're persuading, the value and the size of that next step is an indicator. This is valuable. It's going well. And it's also a great tactical tool. This is part of, some of you saw it yesterday, the SCORE selling method, 5 key steps to selling more effectively. It's in there, particularly from the S to the C, but also the R, which is resistance, and how to provoke and understand what the resistance is. Great questions. Resistance is part of the human psyche. No one buys anything, no one makes a decision without saying something new, change. Change means risk. They may decide to move forward quickly, but for that moment, they've had that internal discussion about risk. Or they may decide to move forward in a month of contemplation because they're dealing with risk. They're dealing with risk. Those are the 5 key steps: scopes, challenges, outcomes, resistance, and execution. That's the persuasion paradox. I got one more thing here. When you do this, you've got a brilliant idea, and you engage people in it, and you want to get them to the answer of your brilliant idea. It actually might even be better after you get the input, because as persuasive and as brilliant as we are, 2 heads always develop it better. I know when I'm with a potential client, or even if I have the client, the more that I bring value, but all of a sudden they start putting their own human dynamics of it, of their organization and things like that. In any situation of leadership, of influence, when you get ideas from other people, your solutions just get better. The true master is an eternal student, and what you might just find is that you'll be more persuasive. Not only by building the better solution, but by getting the co-ownership. Spark your idea, pull them through, and then listen, because it could even be better. And when that happens, when it's a better solution, and they've decided yes, nothing is better than that. Well, a few things. Okay. And you'll be your most persuasive. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
Thank you for your amazing training.
Okay.